Come on, Annie. Let's go to the movies.
This is the Cinereelists, episode 610. My name is Kyle.
My name is James.
And my name is Zach.
And we're here to talk movies, movie lists, and movie obsession for the next hour or so. Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You're a couple days late, but I appreciate it.
Well, I mean, I maybe wished it to you on the actual day, but, you know, in podcast world, it's Happy Thanksgiving.
Sure.
Yes.
Not to be that guy again, but how do you guys feel about people on Facebook wishing you a happy Thanksgiving?
No one does that for
Is there
me.
anything more pointless?
I've never had that happen.
Really?
Yeah.
It's not as bad as the birthday thing, but
You don't like the birthday thing?
no. We've talked about
Why not?
this.
What's wrong with the birthday thing?
There's nothing wrong with it. It's just pointless.
It's rather impersonal.
Yeah.
It used to be cool. Like at first it was novel. Like, oh, it's on Facebook. I wish you happy birthday. And I was excited about it. And now, I don't know, 15 years into Facebook or whatever, I'm like, nah, you can just send me a text message if you really care.
It's literally like, short of not doing anything, it's the bare minimum. It's literally like you happen to see. It's not like somebody went to my profile and then wished me a happy birthday. They just happened to be a Facebook addict, saw that it was my birthday that day, and clicked like or whatever. Come on.
Facebook prompts you now. It's like, oh, it's James's birthday. Do you want to wish happy birthday?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah,
There's no point.
Tell me what you think of this. I have a friend. It's definitely not me, okay?
Sure it
So
is.
don't think it is, but I'll keep this friend anonymous.
is it me? That'd be funny.
it might be Kyle. And he wrote like a script
Mm-hmm.
that sends out a personalized email, but it's like mail merge. So like it'll fill in their name on their birthday, and it'll give like a random string of 5 different like welcomes, and then 5 different body texts that are like happy birthday. And so they'll get an email on their birthday without this friend doing anything.
It's at least novel, and at one point he made effort to
Right.
like create this system. So I'll give him that much. If I knew that I was getting this email from him and I knew how he generated it, it wouldn't be worth much to me after a few years. But most of the people that get it, I assume, don't know those things. And so in that case, why not make them feel a little good about themselves?
I think I would like that better if it showed a skeleton, where if I got an email that said like, dear insert name, happy, then much like check boxes that they check.
I
Like, I think that'd
send
be
that
funnier.
email to them every year
Okay.
on their birthday. And I always think it's funny.
It's
Like, at
about
least you're
as
making
personal.
fun of this system. Yeah.
It's about as personal as clicking like on Facebook, to be honest. Like a dear untitled email or insert
Mhm.
name here, first name, last name here.
Yeah.
What's up, guys?
Well, James, I'll say happy Thanksgiving to you in person over Zoom. It's not quite the same, but
thanks. Do you guys cook for Thanksgiving?
do I personally cook or do people in my household cook?
Do you personally cook? Did you cook
I
anything?
do not cook for Thanksgiving. No.
You never have, or you just didn't this year?
I don't think I ever. I mean, I've cooked a turkey before. When we've hosted, I've done turkey before.
All right.
Yeah.
King Kyle over there just getting everybody to cook for him, I guess. What about you, Zach?
I certainly have before. I
Sure.
enjoy the process. I'm trying to think this year if I cooked anything.
Oh,
I definitely
assembled-
participated in the deviled eggs.
Okay.
Yes.
Does that mean you ate them?
Well, that too, but I helped make them.
Okay.
I helped make the mashed potatoes this year.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair
But
enough.
we ate it at another person's house. So like we didn't host.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Fair
yeah,
enough.
we at my parents' house. Like when we're hosting, we, as in mostly Megan, will do most of the cooking.
Sure.
But she
Nice.
also really enjoys it, being a chef and all. So
All right. Good excuse. I agree. I made green bean casserole for my
Nice.
family.
is this like the casserole with the Campbell's soup and all that stuff?
Yes, it had
Okay.
Campbell soup.
All right, the classic. Yeah.
It had fresh green beans. I think next year I want to actually make the soup and actually fry the onions.
Oh, so you're going to move away from the cans instead of using like frozen green beans. You're going to go fresh green beans, make the soup yourself.
I've already got
Fry
the
the
fresh green
onions.
beans covered. I did that this year.
Okay.
Next year, I want to go completely non-prepackaged food.
I feel like the fresh green beans is a low-hanging fruit of that meal. It's going to be making the soup yourself will be the
Sure.
next step.
I mean, I was dipping my toe, in the ocean
Yeah,
with the
let's try
fresh
it out.
green beans.
Green bean casserole is maybe my least favorite traditional Thanksgiving food.
Really? Maybe?
Yeah. Maybe. I don't think I'd like it.
Weird. I love it.
I don't know if I've ever had it. I've had
What?
green beans at Thanksgiving, but like never the Campbell's green bean casserole.
It just sounds soupy and green beany.
I don't think I've ever had it.
I mean, that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
But it's
Oh,
good.
yeah, no, I can picture it. I just don't think it's ever been served to me.
All right. Fair enough. Anything else happened over Thanksgiving?
Did you guys anyone watch any like Thanksgiving movies with family?
Nope.
No.
There's not a lot of Thanksgiving movies, I feel like.
Oh, I should refresh that. I should say movies during the long weekend with family, not Thanksgiving themed.
We watched the
necessarily.
parade.
Oh, okay.
My wife's really into watching the parade every year. So we watched the parade.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Well, enough chit chat, guys. It's time to get down to business. We're going to talk Napoleon this week. At least 2/3 of us are. And then we're
Wait,
going to go
Napoleon?
Napoleon.
That's not what you guys told me.
It's
You didn't
not-
tell me we were doing Napoleon.
What did you see, Zach?
How dare you?
You said we were watching that 10-hour docu-series about Napoleon.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
What? Oh, my
April
goodness.
Fools. Got you.
You got me so good. All right, I guess I can't participate.
I would love if Zach watched the 1927 5-hour version. Like, oh,
I have seen that. It's good.
yeah. Is it worth seeing?
It's great actually, I would
Okay.
say. Yeah.
I want to see it. The 5-hour runtime is just a barrier to entry, but I'll break it up overnight.
It starts like a half an hour snowball fight when he's a kid. It's great.
This was made
So
in the
is it-
50s?
20s.
No, 20s.
20s.
It's silent.
Ugh.
Is it like a biopic where it's like a kid through? Is it his whole
Yeah.
life? It is.
Mhm.
Okay. Where this Napoleon is a little bit more structure centered on a specific era.
It's a 5-hour silent film?
Yeah.
Ugh. Can't
No, but-
imagine anything
no.
more torturous.
Imagine if it's riveting.
I'm trying to. I just can't.
It's really good. No, it's really good. It's
No, I
really
mean,
good.
I think something that's fascinating about silent film is because they can't use audio to tell a story. Like
has to be
so
good.
often the visuals are so
Yeah.
fascinating. Yeah.
It's like vegan food, how like really good vegan food is usually awesome because like they have one hand tied behind their back because they can't use meat. And so they have to like compensate by making it amazing.
I don't think I've ever had enough vegan food in my life to
I don't think
agree
you're really
with that.
selling it to James. Nah, silent films, it's like vegan food, James.
You're gonna love it.
You're gonna love it.
No, it's like how Daredevil is really good sense of perception
because
because he's
because
blind.
silent movies are missing a couple senses. They have to make up for the rest.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Okay.
All right, so we're going to talk Napoleon, and we're also going to talk the top 10 films of Ridley Scott. Before we jump into all that, though, I need to remind you there's a video version of this podcast. Go check it out there. Search Cinereelists, find us, subscribe, and watch while you listen. You can also support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Cinereelists. Get extra after-show audio, as well as other Cinerealist swag. You could leave us an Apple Podcast review. We'd appreciate that. 5 stars only, or send us an email to heyguys@cinereelist.com with a comment, question, list suggestion, movie suggestion, any of those kinds of things we enjoy getting via email and we'll talk about on an upcoming episode of the podcast. Kyle, are you ready to talk Napoleon?
I'm ready, James.
We are going to leave Zach out of this conversation because he didn't make it to the movie this weekend, which is fine. He had commitments. Let's say that. Commitments? You were committed?
Yeah, I couldn't watch the movie.
He's self-committed this weekend, but he's out now and ready to rejoin the world.
Right. But if you're a big Zach fan, he'll be back for our top 10 Ridley Scott list. So just fast forward to that, I guess.
And if you hate Zach, then happy early Christmas.
And with that, we're going to talk Napoleon. It's in theaters now. Here's a clip.
Why are you staring at me?
Am I?
Yes?
I was not.
Oh, you weren't.
I was. I was staring at your face.
What is this costume you have on?
This is my uniform. I led the French victory at Toulon. Do not tell me your name.
That was Napoleon, a movie that's in theaters now and also soon to be on Disney Plus. The rumor is before the end of the year.
Apple, maybe?
Apple Plus.
Okay.
Sorry, there's too many pluses out there.
I get you.
Why did they decide Plus was going to be the thing for all these streaming services?
I think because it's like a bonus. It's like, oh, you want more Disney? Okay.
It's a bonus you have to pay for?
It is, yes. It's a bonus you have to pay for.
Okay. Well, I don't get it because it's not like they had an original streaming service and then like this is the better version of that. It's like right out of the gate, Apple and Disney both said, we're starting with a plus.
Well, I mean, Apple TV Plus makes sense because Apple TV is the product. And then Apple TV Plus is like, here's this add-on service you can use with our product. The Disney Plus thing doesn't quite make as much sense.
I guess. You're winning me over, Kyle. I agree. Apple is absolved. Disney, however,
Logic always wins.
Disney is guilty as charged. All right. So Napoleon is a movie with a plot description. That description is an epic that details the checkered rise and fall of French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte and his relentless journey to power through the prism of his addictive, volatile relationship with his wife, Josephine. This movie stars Ridley Scott and
Stars Ridley Scott?
It was directed by him.
Okay.
He's really the
Maybe
star
get a
of it,
cameo
though.
somewhere. Yeah.
The movie stars Joaquin Phoenix, Vanessa Kirby, Tahar Rahim, amongst many, many others, I would say. Too many to name. There are a lot of actors in this movie, as well as just a lot of, cannon fodder in this movie. There's a lot of cannons in this movie.
There's a lot of battle in this movie.
A lot of battle, a lot of people getting hit with cannons, literally exploding in front of your very eyes. There's a lot of that.
This movie kind of right out the gate lets you know that there's going to be cannon carnage throughout this movie.
Right.
So,
and they did not disappoint with that expectation.
No. This is like, what's that Brad Pitt tank movie? Fury? This is like Fury for Napoleon.
Sure. I think this was more violent than Fury, but I understand what you're saying.
Maybe.
Maybe. You haven't seen Fury in a while. There's like one or two key moments, but for the most part, it's not that violent, I would say.
Okay. Then this is probably more violent than Fury.
Anyway, Napoleon, we've seen it. Both of us. You want to go first? You want me to?
Usually one of us goes first. Let's let you go first today.
Okay.
Yeah, what'd you think, James?
What did I think of Napoleon? It's a good question. Thanks for asking it. It was kind of long.
Okay.
And not as many, as much as we've, hyped up the battles in this movie, there's really not that many of them. There's kind of like 3, I would say, main ones. They gloss over some of the other ones, kind of show them in, montagey, fast sped up time as he's doing his various conquests and victories. And but for the most part, there's kind of 3 action sequences, and in between those action sequences, there's a lot of lovers' angst between Josephine and Napoleon.
Yeah.
And I liked that movie for the most part, but also kind of felt like I didn't learn anything about Napoleon that I didn't already know. And I have a pretty surface level of Napoleon.
Really? Okay, so
sure.
like you knew about him and Josephine?
Yeah, I knew about him and Josephine. I knew about the
Okay.
letters. I knew that like
Okay.
that's kind of where he gets the like the whole term Napoleon complex.
Right.
It's not entirely derived from these letters, but the letters were extremely embarrassing to him. The fact that they were passed around at the time and have survived throughout history.
Right.
And it's because his legend was that he was this, all conquering battle master. I don't know what you'd call it.
I mean,
And
yeah, he was a master tactician.
right. And the letters kind of put into question, I guess, how hard he was or,
Mhm.
his manhood. I don't know. So anyway, I understand that that's certainly part of the story, and I feel like that I wasn't upset that that part was told, but it kind of felt like it came in place of more, not necessarily action, but more explanation of just how dominant he was. And I think they did a decent job of like showing some of his opponents go from enemies to I don't know, allies over the course of the movie.
Right.
Begrudgingly, clearly begrudgingly, they became allies. And so I got the gist, but I'm not looking for a 5-hour black and white movie from the 1920s to explain every single detail of every single battle. But I kind of feel like they breezed by a bunch of pretty important stuff. Again, not knowing the entire Napoleon story and having a cursory knowledge, I felt like they covered what a cursory knowledge would give you in today's society as a person in their mid 40s. And so, as from a story perspective, I wasn't upset with what we got, but it kind of felt like with 2 hours and 40 minutes, there was more to say beyond the Josephine Napoleon story. That being said, the battle sequences in this movie are pretty fantastic. If you like war movies and period set war movies in particular, certainly movies within this time period, just after the French Revolution. I mean, this is from an action, choreography, execution, perfect practical and digital effects combination. There's not much better, I would say, than what Napoleon does in this movie during those sequences. The ice sequence was amazing. I
The
thought
frozen lake was great.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Yep.
beautifully shot. And yeah, I didn't expect that. I wonder if that's historically accurate. Did he actually do that in a battle?
So you know more about Napoleon than I do, because like this was, aside from the fact that he was this conqueror and the Napoleon complex, I knew very little about him besides the hits, right?
Okay.
The highlights of his career, but definitely nothing about the backstory.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
think-
so I can't tell you what we saw, how much of that was accurate versus how much of that was Ridley Scott taking some artistic license.
Right.
I'm sure he did. Like I did read. So like at the in the Battle of Waterloo, in that sequence, Napoleon rides in with his cavalry leading the charge, right? And no general was doing that during that era. They all would lead from the back. So that was something that was obviously made up for the film, but visually it looks exciting, and for the story to see him at the front of the charge. So that's an example where Scott took some license. I'm not sure what else he did in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, but with the relationship with Josephine, they kind of portray him as kind of like this, spineless wuss, I would say, when it comes to her. And so I think because of the events of the film, at that moment, having him ride, I think was more a story point.
Right. Yeah.
Then, yeah, I don't know if that's historically accurate or not, but I'm assuming
it's not.
It wouldn't be based on what you're saying.
You're right.
I guess my point is that I think his legend is one half of the Josephine and the love letters and the Napoleon complex of it all. And then the other half is that he, on top of all that, he was a skilled tactician, at least at the time. What was given to him to use in battle, he used intelligently And there's kind of just one example of that for the most part. At the beginning, there's a little bit, but the scene with the ice is kind of the only scene where you get to see that in action. And so I kind of wish we had seen more of that, like real world examples of him being good at this.
Mhm.
And so that's my biggest complaint, but it's not that big a complaint. I did enjoy watching this. I enjoyed Vanessa Kirby and her performance as kind of like the woman left behind, and him just needing her approval. I would say,
Yeah.
like pretty useless without it for the most part. Anytime he felt slighted by her, he just absolutely could not function. And I don't know if that's the impression that the letters give off. I haven't actually read them, but that's definitely the impression the movie gave off. And I enjoyed the drama of all that for the most part. I have also heard rumors that there's like a 4-hour cut of this movie, and I'm curious to know how much of what I'm complaining about that's missing from the film is in that 4-hour cut.
I mean, I would be, yeah. So Scott has said when this gets in Apple TV Plus Max Excellence,
Mhm.
whatever release, it's gonna be it's gonna be another 2 hours longer.
Oh, over 4 hours.
Yeah, I thought 4.5 is what I read.
Wow.
I'd be curious to know, yeah, like was there a major battle that was filmed which they just cut from this whole movie,
Mhm.
or is it gonna be a lot more of the Josephine and also sort of the political plotting? Because I think that's the third part about this movie.
Mhm.
Is there's a lot of plotting between. I mean, this is a very tumultuous time in French history where it was post-revolution. The guillotine was taken off. There's people pushed back against that.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of changes in leadership of who's king, who should be running the country. And this movie definitely shows a lot of that backroom plotting
Mhm.
of, well, we should be in charge, and well, we should be in charge, and like all these both bloody and bloodless coups that were being led. And I can't imagine living in a country and like every 10 years there's a new head of state.
Sure.
And like, all right, we're a monarchy now. And okay, no, now we're a constitutional this, or like it's just gotta be real whiplash for the common French person after a while. And like, how much if you're a peasant or not a peasant, if you're not of the aristocracy,
Mhm.
like how much do you care if every 10 years that keeps getting changed like that? Is that having major effect on your life, or is all this miserable the whole time?
I think they were generally miserable and more concerned with like getting a loaf of bread for the week
Right.
than they were anything going on with the monarchy. Your
Exactly,
average
or-
person in France
Yeah.
at that time.
Yep.
But certainly the wealthy there cared who was in power. Certainly.
For sure. Yes.
What'd you think of our good friend Joaquin Phoenix in starring role?
Yeah. So I thought it was interesting that he was not doing an accent.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just was speaking his normal Joaquin Phoenix voice.
Yeah.
And everyone seemed to be speaking in like whatever their native accent was.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was definitely a choice on Scott's part. Like, we're not going to try and do fake French accents. We're not all going to speak like we're British. We're just going to use your speaking voice.
Mm-hmm.
So I that's something that I noticed, but did not bother me. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix brought some humor to this role, which is something that you did not mention. Like there were several laugh out loud lines for me.
Sure.
And like memorable moments. And I don't know if Napoleon was a witty person or had humor about him, but just how that was used in this movie, I thought also kind of just showed both his insecurity and his hypocrisy as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has that one great line where he says something like to Vanessa Kirby, like, "I'm not built like other men. I'm not the jealous kind." And this is already like halfway into the movie. You're like, of course you're the jealous kind.
He's
like,
already traveled like halfway across the globe because he was entirely jealous.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But, so I mean, it uses that, and there's also just some other lines that just stood out, which I don't want to spoil because they were quite funny.
Mm-hmm.
But I, not knowing much about Napoleon, as I said before, I liked the Josephine part of this and how it seems so much of what he was doing was for her approval. And like, at least this movie was positing that like she was one of the driving forces behind the ambition he displayed. Because at some point he even says, again, this could be part of the hypocrisy. He says, I'm not an ambitious man at some point, even though he's slowly rising through the ranks of power. The battles you mentioned were great. They were great. I could have used more of those because Ridley Scott knows how to film a battle. And he's done this before in other movies before, and which I'm sure we'll talk about later in the podcast. He knows what he's doing, and he knows how to use CG so effectively. Where like there's moments where you've got hundreds, if not thousands, of infantrymen and horses riding across a field, and it's probably CG. Like it has to be CG, but it's filmed so well and seamlessly that I'm not watching this. I don't feel like I'm watching a bunch of CG horses running across a foggy field.
Does it have to be CG? I mean, this was an expensive movie to make.
I mean, it doesn't. It's okay. It's most likely CG.
I think it's CG enhanced, but I think they actually put guys on horses and ran them down a hill.
So that's what I'm saying is like he might have taken 100 actors and horses, ran them down a hill, and then filled in another 800 around it.
Right.
But he uses it so effectively.
It's hard to tell.
Exactly. And I think that's one thing that Ridley Scott has shown in the last 20 years is how he can use CG effectively to enhance what he's doing, but still also give you something visceral and real to look at.
Yeah. The estimated budget, according to Wikipedia, and this is a pretty wide range, somewhere between 130 million and 200 million.
Yeah.
It's like 70 million in the middle there.
Yeah. Like I've heard more on the higher end for that range. So,
but the box office after opening weekend, almost 80 million, which for a historical epic is a good haul, I would say.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Better than I thought it would be.
For sure.
I will say, like, so you're right. This movie does gloss over some things, which I was fine with because I wasn't looking for like a beat by beat historical biography of Napoleon. I think some of the worst biopics try and give you everything, and then they feel like a montage where we're just like doing the hits. And even though this movie does focus on his probably most famous period from like when he was starting to become a general to exile, it still felt like it was, I mean, this is a phrase you've been using a lot recently. You can disagree with me. It feels stuff like a vibe movie at times where we're kind of checking in on something, but we're not going to give you like the nitty gritty of what's happening, nor are we going to spend minutes like trying to discuss some political machination that's happening. And actually, I kind of liked that. I think that kept this movie moving forward, even though it is over 2.5 hours long, that it didn't seem to bog down in some of these details. And it kind of knew, let's give us a battle, and then let's give you like some Josephine stuff and some political stuff, but we're not going to get mired too much in any of it.
Yeah, I mean,
that worked for me.
I'm willing to bet that Ridley Scott made a Ridley Scott movie that like was fairly complete, and then in the edit he like turned it into a Sofia Coppola movie when it comes to the plot. You know what I mean? He's like, we'll just cut every plot element that's specific and only leave the vibes, basically, except for a few of the hits.
Right. So you agree this did kind of feel like a Sofia Coppola movie in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of specific points in his life that are covered. Now, often they're referred to. You're not actually shown those things happen, but they're referred to, and sometimes they're minutes after type of thing. But it's not a whole lot of showing. A lot of talking about things that happened or are going to happen type of thing. And that's fine. I didn't necessarily have an issue with those things. I guess I wasn't ready for it to be so long and also such a relationship movie.
Yeah.
I figured there'd be a decent amount of relationship, certainly. Like Vanessa Kirby got pretty big billing in the trailer, stuff like that. They clearly wanted like a younger person who is a rising star compared to like Josephine's like 6 years older than Napoleon in real life.
Yes, yeah.
And so why they cast like a a lead actress that's like 20 years younger than Joaquin Phoenix, there's reasons, obviously. And so I understand why all that's in there. I don't necessarily have a problem with it. I just feel like there's a lot left to say about this character. And I'm not sure there was enough said about him to fully represent what I have thought he was about. Like I felt like they fully represented how he was a loser in love. I feel like that's fully represented in this movie. The idea that he's a skilled tactician instead of a battlefield troll, I would say. I'm not sure you get that from this movie. You kind of feel like he got lucky that one or two times.
I disagree. So you have that first battle is like the Battle of Toulon or something, kind of where he made his name. He got a promotion.
Sure.
And like he obviously has this whole plan of how they're going to attack this fort and why this fort's important and the cannons and everything. So like you see there that he seems to be like a decent tactician because his plan seems legit. He's not just let's just run at the walls and see what happens, right? And then Phoenix gives this little nervousness to Napoleon for that first battle, which I thought was really interesting because he wasn't showing quite the confidence that we do see in later Napoleon battles, where he does seem a little nervous. He's kind of frightened by the cannon fire, and he's definitely not sure if this is going to work out or not. Even though to him it seems like a great plan, he doesn't know, will this work? Later in the movie, he comes up with this plan, and he's pretty confident it'll work. And spoiler alert, we gets to the Battle of Waterloo, where he's as confident as ever.
Yeah, it's interesting how you can kind of track how confident he is over the course of the movie based on how he reacts to cannon fire.
Yes, yeah.
It's kind of wild. I liked in that first sequence after they've won the battle, spoiler alert, and he's kind of like walking through the soldiers to his dead horse, and he's got that like half goofball smile on his face. Like he knows he shouldn't smile, but he's very proud of himself.
Right. They pulled it off. Yeah.
It was a good touch for sure.
What I think what this movie was maybe missing for me, because there's implications to it. Again, I don't know the Napoleon history, so this could be just me reading between the lines. But it seems like a lot of what he was doing and what his brother were doing, at least in the early years, was based on maybe the approval or the pushing of their mother. Because like at one point he's talking to his brother, and he says something like, "Oh, and we'll do just as mother said we will," or his mother planned, or something. So I was wondering if there is some sort of connection between him trying to get approval from his mother and then him trying to get approval from Josephine. And I was hoping the movie would go there. Like maybe there's like a little bit of an Oedipal complex going on. Maybe not Oedipal is the right word, but you know, like we need mother's approval, and then that's being now magnified through Josephine, but it never quite goes there. And the mom does show up, but she's not quite as big of a role as I thought she would be, as they talked about her in the first half hour of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to bet, and I'm down to watch the long version for sure, but I'm willing to bet there's probably more of that in there. There's probably more of the politicians that come in and out of his life, and like the political game that's happening over like who's going to be emperor or who's going to be in charge of, what do they call it in France? The Congress. There's actually a name for it.
I think they have a parliament.
Yeah. Something like that. I don't remember. Who's in charge of that? There's a lot of spinning wheels in this movie, and they just kind of are like, oh, by the way, we did that thing like a year ago, and now we're on to this new thing, and you're like, okay, I'm sure there was a story behind that, but we just skipped right by it, and now we're moping around with Josephine again.
But I mean, to defend this movie, though, this movie has made the decision that this is about his relationship with Josephine.
Sure.
It's not trying to give you a complete beat by beat, because either A, that's going to be a 5-hour movie, which we're going to get probably anyway, or it's just going to be like the Iron Lady, where you feel like it's going to be like every 2 minutes is a new era and something new happens, and you're just kind of, it's whiplashy at least. So
sure,
I appreciate that this movie whether you liked it or not, at least chose a story. And like, we're going to focus on a couple of the great battles, but we're really going to focus on how he and Josephine affected him as a person.
But did it though? I mean, like, compare this to Priscilla, right? That's a movie that is a story inside a much bigger story. Does it ever go on stage with Elvis? Does it go on tour with Elvis? Does it leave the main character, the main plot line of Priscilla kind of being a, you know, left at home wife and being lonely and not even knowing what her husband's doing? You know, like Sofia Coppola committed to telling that story. Whereas this movie commits to the Josephine Napoleon arc for sure, but throws in all this other super enticing stuff. Right? But only gives us like shades of that when it gave us a full picture of the Josephine Napoleon stuff. Again, I didn't dislike what I saw, but it definitely felt like there were threads left open that I would have liked to have seen explored. Maybe it just wouldn't fit in this cut of the movie. Maybe it'll play better on an extended or director's cut. We'll see.
Right. Yeah. I agree. There's definitely more to this story. But I like the story that we got.
I kind of wish this was like an 8-hour miniseries. That would be great. There's plenty to fill 8 hours, I'm sure. Whether they could have done it in that budget, probably not on an 8-hour thing.
You never know.
All right. Anything else with Ridley Scott's Napoleon before we give it a Letterboxd score?
I just want to mention the music. It seemed like it was period specific music, but for some reason, I felt like the movie could have broken out into like punk rock at any moment. Like they could have dropped in a late 70s punk rock song and it would have fit this movie. I don't know why.
I wonder if, I didn't really note the music, but I'm wondering if, you know, it was certainly symphonic from my memory, but maybe they had like punk backbeats over the course of the film and that's what was giving you that taste.
It might have been, it might have been like symphonic music with like a beat. I don't know. I need to hear it again, but it just felt a little discordant to me.
Okay.
I don't know what's the word when something doesn't line up with the era that it's set for. I can't think of that word right now.
Off topic. I don't know.
I know. I'll think of it halfway through the podcast. There's a specific word when it's anyway. So I liked it though.
All right. I enjoyed it as well. I mean, I enjoyed the presentation in general. It very much reminds me that we don't get big epic historical movies anymore.
No, we don't.
And I miss these. I'm kind of glad we don't constantly get them for sure, but and I'm glad that Ridley Scott is the one that is the guy that directed this because he definitely knows how to make them for sure.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, how old is Ridley Scott? He's got to be.
He's in his 80s, I think.
Okay.
I read a tweet that was like something like Ridley Scott directed 15 movies in his first 40 years of directing and then 12 in the last 10 or something like that. Like he is just churning them out. Like he knows the day is coming. He can no longer do this. And so he's just pounding them. That's not exactly what the tweet was, but that was the gist of it. Without the details being correct, but yeah, he's definitely working hard right now compared to I believe it like after Gladiator he didn't make another movie for 5 or 6 years and now he's making one a year, it feels like. Yeah,
because he did The Last Duel,
House
2021,
House of Gucci right before that. There's a bunch. We're gonna go over them here in a few minutes.
Perfect. Yep.
All right, let's letterbox this. I will give Napoleon a 4.
I will also give it a 4.
Nice. I think it could have been a 4.5 or a 5 had my concerns been addressed. And maybe they will be with a director's cut. We'll see. All right, let's jump into our top 10 films of Ridley Scott. But before we do, Kyle has a very important question for Zach.
Zach, I can't think of this word. It came up in our previous discussion.
Sure.
What's the word for like when you're watching a movie that takes place during a certain era and then they play modern music?
Anachronistic.
Anachronistic. Thank you. That was killing me.
Spoiler alert. They do that through the entirety of Napoleon, Zach. You're going to hate it.
They don't.
Like Marie Antoinette.
Yeah, right. Yes, that's the example. Like Marie Antoinette, anachronistic. I cannot think of that word. James was no help whatsoever.
I said diegetic. That's pretty close.
No,
I mean, that's
that's
not
not
at all.
close at all.
They
No,
both end in
and-
it.
And most likely it would be non-diegetic if that's what the case is.
That would be hilarious. Is if like I've never seen Marie Antoinette, but you're watching Marie Antoinette, like some punk rock song's playing, and then she like picks up the stylus on the gramophone and it stops playing.
That would be
Like,
awesome.
That would be diegetic right there.
That'd be the
So,
best.
Yeah.
What's the movie with Heath Ledger where he's at night?
A Knight's
And-
Tale.
Knight's Tale.
Yeah, and they play "We Will Rock You."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like everyone in the crowd is like stomping along.
Right. Yeah.
I love it in that movie. I mean, it's perfectly placed, in my opinion, in that movie.
Love it.
It's great. I mean, come on. They're making it, it's an allegory. They're like, oh, this is the jock jams. Works in any period. We will rock you, stuff like that.
Yeah. Next to the horses dancing to I like to move it. And it's just
You guys don't like A Knight's Tale? What's wrong with you? Do you hate
I
life?
saw A Knight's Tale when it came out. I've got no memory besides the "We Will Rock You" part.
Well, you need to rewatch it then.
You have no idea what I think of Knight's Tale.
I
James.
need to
You have
rewatch
no
it.
clue.
I think you like it, Zach.
You don't know. That's the thing. You don't know.
Well, tell me.
Yeah, I liked it.
Okay. There we go.
I didn't love it.
How dare you?
Not like you.
I didn't say I love it. I said I liked
You
it.
said you loved it.
I don't think I said I loved it.
Oh,
If I did, I take it
rewind the
back.
tape.
I take it back. It's rewind time. I take it back. I like it. All right. Speaking of movies I like, and you guys probably like as well, let's talk the top 10 films of Ridley Scott. Who wants to go first with their number 10?
I'll go first.
All right.
So I'll start by saying that I've seen 13 Ridley Scott movies,
All right.
which I don't know. It seems kind of a small number considering how many he's actually directed. And I
Has he
wanted
only
to,
directed like 17?
I don't know. We were talking about how he cranked out a bunch in the last 20, 15 years so far.
He's-
Letterboxd, I only see 17. Well, actually, those are only ones I've seen. Never
Oh,
mind.
okay. So-
He definitely has more than that.
Never mind. Don't
well,
talk to me.
I've seen 13. I wanted to watch Kingdom of Heaven for this episode. I just did not get to the time to do so. So that will not be on my list. But my number 10 is Hannibal from 2001. This is the sequel to The Silence of the Lambs. Stars Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal, where he's the main focus now of the story. And instead of having Jodie Foster come back, you have Julianne Moore, who I can't remember if she's actually playing Clarice Starling or if she's playing a different detective, FBI agent. Do you guys remember?
No.
I do not remember.
I
I
don't
can probably
remember.
find out if I click on the poster. But anyway, so this is a sequel to Silence of the Lambs. It's based on the book of the same name. It's a little pulpier than Silence of the Lambs. It's more focused on, Hannibal Lecter and kind of who he is. There's also a whole story with Gary Oldman and his pigs. But I remember liking this movie when it came out for its era, and it's I don't think it's necessarily like a standout Ridley Scott movie, but for being number 10 out of 13, I like it.
Very nice. James?
My number 10 is All the Money in the World from 2017. This is the drama that he directed about the kid who gets kidnapped and then his mother who married into the family and her husband, who's the son by blood, passed away. I don't remember if she's a widow. There's some kind of story complication like that. So her son gets kidnapped and then there's a ransom, and her father-in-law, who's incredibly wealthy, could easily pay the ransom and get the son back, and he refuses to pay. And she doesn't like that. And rightfully so, because she wants her son back. And so it's kind of a thriller of sorts, a drama. The movie's probably more famous for being the movie that Kevin Spacey was replaced out of. I think it was, who was it? Christopher Plummer
Correct.
replaced him when he got in trouble for his horrible, horrible actions. One of the things that was a repercussion is they literally, a movie that was already shot with him in it and a trailer released, they pulled him digitally out of the movie and replaced him with Christopher Plummer, which was kind of awesome. Like if you watch the movie, you'd never guess. It's really good editing and picking your spots to actually do it digitally and just kind of shooting around everything else. Really well done, and a tight little thriller. My number 10.
Cool. Well, my number 10 is the director's cut of Kingdom of Heaven. One thing that when I think of Ridley Scott, I think of director's cuts. Like I can't think of another director that is more known for re-editing his films, and that they often get better in the re-edit. Kingdom of Heaven is a great example of this. I think the movie absolutely improves in the director's cut. This is the story of the Crusades, told in his kind of like gladiator style. And it's pretty epic and visually stunning and fun to watch. It's got Legolas in it, which is fun. And I liked it, but I was pretty underwhelmed with the theatrical cut. And then I gave it another chance with the director's cut, and I liked it quite a bit more. The pacing was better. The ending made more sense. It felt like we got more details of the time. It was cool.
So I should watch the director's cut over the theatrical release?
I
if
definitely
possible?
definitely
Okay.
think so. Yeah.
Cool. All right, good. See, now I'm glad I didn't watch it for the podcast. I would have watched the wrong one.
You would have. Yeah.
Would have been a big
Yeah.
mess. You'd have to watch it twice in 1 week.
That's just, I don't got time for that. What I do have time for is my number 9, G.I. Jane, 1997. This is a movie I actually saw with Zach in the theater way back when we were 14 years old. It's one of the first, not the first, one of the first R-rated movies I saw in the theater. And this is the story about a woman played by Demi Moore, who is a trial candidate to be enlisted in the Navy. So, you know, when this movie was made, women could not serve, at least frontline in armed forces. So the plot of this movie is there is, the Navy is going to try allowing women to serve, frontline in the services, go through boot camp. And Demi Moore's character is the first candidate to go through this process. And she is definitely harassed and seems like she's being singled out by her commanders to make her fail because, the politics behind the whole situation. It's a really strong Demi Moore performance. I have not seen this movie since we saw it in the theater, however many years ago that was. But I do remember, like, she stands out as the performance. Viggo Mortensen's in this, speaking of our Lord of the Rings connections to Ridley Scott. I do remember the ending being kind of stupid. I think like it's a movie where it gives you 3/4 great training montage, all this, her going through the training, and then has a kind of dumb ending, but I don't really remember it very well. Maybe Zach, you remember better. It'll be later on your list.
I mostly just remember her shaving her head.
Yeah, that's a big moment. I really remember her ringing the tap out bell and like cracking a baseball bat across it or something like that. That was a big dramatic moment too. So a lot of dramatic moments in G.I. Jane.
Yeah. James?
Oh, sorry. Just distracted by the mental picture of a young Kyle and Zach sitting in a dark theater watching G.I. Jane for some reason. Who took you to that?
No one. We went by
Took
ourselves.
ourselves.
Yeah.
We
All
watched
right.
a lot of movies together.
Yes. It's
How old were you guys when you were watching G.I. Jane? Isn't it a rated R movie?
yeah. We're 14.
Yeah, 14.
This
You
is back when
snuck
you could-
into G.I. Jane?
No, you could. When we were under 17, you could go see R-rated movies if you're under 17. It was
okay.
like somewhere in the late 90s, like right around when we turned 17, 18. That's when the theater policy changed of you had to be accompanied by an adult.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, you could go see R-rated movies without an adult back
Fair
in
enough.
the day.
My number 9, House of Gucci, 2021. This movie's generally panned and ignored, I would say, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was super fun, campy, weird. Lady Gaga, Adam Driver, Jared Leto's amazing in this movie. I literally got like 3/4 of the way through the movie before I even realized he was in it. His character is like unrecognizable as far as Jared Leto goes. Like I had no clue that was Jared Leto underneath that makeup and in the performance. I was kind of mesmerized by it when I realized that's who I was watching. And it tells the story of Gucci and the family name and how it went from a family brand that was based on quality to like kind of a mass market big business, and how most of the members of the family not necessarily got screwed over the course, but the business is much bigger and much more profitable now than it ever was under the family's rule. And it does a good job of telling that story while also being entertaining, in my opinion. And I personally think most traditional name brands, certainly Gucci, when I see people wear that stuff, it looks kind of gaudy to me. And the movie feels gaudy. And that's kind of an accomplishment, in my opinion. I think that vibe, for lack of a better term, put some people off to the movie, but I think it was pretty intentional and pretty successful. My number 9.
I feel like I could make a gaudy movie.
You think you can intentionally make a gaudy movie?
I think that I could.
Okay. I challenge you.
You challenge me?
Sure. Why not?
All right. Challenge accepted, James. All right. My number 9 is Robin Hood. Ridley Scott's Robin Hood. And I would have to say, in general, I was fairly disappointed with this film. I still on the whole like it because it is a Robin Hood film, and that just gives it so many bonus points.
Just the fact that Robin Hood is in it.
No, but it has some of those Robin Hood elements that I like seeing on screen. You know what I mean? So like you get Friar Tuck and you get Little John and you get,
So everybody but Robin Hood is why.
Well, he's in it. He's in it.
I know, but you're mentioning all the other characters is the reason why.
Well, you asked me, is it just because Robin Hood's in it?
Right. It's not. It's because it's Friar Tuck's in it.
Well, yeah,
I think it's because it's the Robin Hood world.
Mythos. It's the 12th century.
Yeah,
It's the blah, blah, blah.
I hear you.
I enjoy seeing that stuff. However, I was fairly disappointed with this film for a couple of reasons, mainly because it feels like a prequel. Like at the end of the movie, he becomes Robin Hood. And at the end of the movie, he goes to Sherwood Forest and becomes like an outlaw.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I would love to see Russell Crowe as Robin Hood in the movie that takes place immediately after this movie. Do you know what I mean? So this whole movie was a setup for a different movie that I would much rather watch. And the other thing is like the big climax of the movie is this full-on battle like on the beach between like Robin and his army and the king and his army. And it's just, when I think of Robin Hood, I don't think of like battles in the same sense of like, like Gladiator or warfare kind of a thing.
Right. He wasn't like a military leader.
Right. I mean, some stories he fought in the Crusades alongside Richard, but like he's in this movie, he's a general commanding his little army on the beach. And it's not the vibe at all that I think of when I think of Robin Hood. But I do love that time period so much. And so getting to see people in the outfits and the villages and all those trappings, I think is fun for me in a movie. So ultimately I'm fine. I'm glad that it exists, but I would much, much rather watch the movie that starts immediately after this movie. So anyway, that's why it's my number 9.
Is there a director's cut of this one?
Probably.
Okay. But you have not seen it.
I have not seen it.
Okay. My number 8 is American Gangster from 2007. This movie stars Denzel Washington. It's based on a true story, at least partly, about a man who becomes a heroin dealer or a drug kingpin in Harlem. I think it takes place in like the early 90s. I'm not exactly sure when. It's not a movie I don't remember a ton about. I do remember there being a very strong Denzel Washington performance in this movie. And you also have Russell Crowe, who's playing the cop who's investigating. He knows what's going on, but he just can't quite pin Denzel Washington as the kingpin of this empire. But definitely Denzel Washington is the reason to watch American Gangster.
I agree. He's the reason. My number 8 is Napoleon, which we just talked about.
Okay.
I
In
don't want to
that
give you any
case-
spoilers. So
In that
the
case,
Metallica
my
song
number
in
8
it was amazing.
is Thelma and Louise.
For whom the bell tolls, tolls for thee, Napoleon.
Thelma and Louise.
Yes.
I came to this movie late, but I enjoyed it. It's it's two women on a run. It's feminist empowerment film. It's got Brad Pitt, a young Brad Pitt. It's got a very iconic ending with the car. I was glad I saw this movie. I've only seen it once. I should see it again because I don't remember it a ton, but I did enjoy it.
Nice. My number 7 is 2001's Black Hawk Down. Now, this is a movie I've kind of had a roller coaster relationship with over the last 20 years because when it came out, I was in college or just getting into college. It was also right around 9/11. And this movie was, I thought, like one of the greatest movies. It was, it's obviously very pro-American military. It's about the army operation in Mogadishu, Somalia in the early 90s that turned into a rescue mission after a Black Hawk helicopter was shot down. And I remember watching this movie a ton in college and be like, yeah, this is like the greatest military action movie. And then, over time, I thought more about it. I'm like, is this movie really that great? Or is it, too patriotic? Is it problematic in its portrayal of like the Somali people? So I watched it, I don't know, about a year ago. I think I got the 4K version of it. And yeah, it can be a little patriotic at times to a fault. And yeah, the Somali people are definitely portrayed a little bit as caricatures, where that could have been given a more robust characterization of who they were. But it's also a really well-directed movie. And it is some great military action. So that's why I got to kind of put it in the middle of my list. Because I do, like, for what it's presenting as like an action movie, I really enjoy. As a historical document, it's probably better to like watch some documentaries or read about things and don't take this as the history of what happened in Mogadishu. But I think as an action movie, it's done very well.
Nice.
My number 7, The Last Duel from 2021. This is a movie starring Ben Affleck and Matt Damon and Jodie Comer and Adam Driver. And it's kind of a movie told in 3 parts where each part repeats the same storyline from the perspective of one of the 3 main characters of the film. And I enjoyed it. It's, what would you call this? A set in the medieval times? What period is this?
I mean, we're talking
14th century?
Yeah, 13th century, 1200s.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. So lots of good battles, lots of sniveling Ben Affleck, which was fun to watch.
1386.
1300s then, right?
So like 100 years after Robin Hood.
No, Robin Hood was
200 years after Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's how we measure time. Before Robin Hood or after Robin Hood?
I mean, that's how everything. Yep.
I'm sure it's going to come up on other lists. And so I'll just say it's great.
You're sure?
I'm sure. I'm positive.
Whew. Wow. Okay. Well, my number 7, just like Kyle, is Black Hawk Down. And I remember seeing this movie in the theater, and then when the credits came on, I was stunned, and I sat in the theater pensive for 10 minutes, thinking it through, because you see the kids running, chasing after the vehicles or whatever. Anyway, I was pensive during it. But the movie was very action packed. All the things Kyle said. I still want to see it on 4K. I still haven't seen it on 4K.
It looks pretty darn good on 4K.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Black Hawk Down, number 7.
All right. My number 6 is the movie of the week, Napoleon. I just can't believe that they had Joaquin Phoenix do the Napoleon Dynamite dance in the middle of this movie. That
I know.
blew me away.
Those Ugg boots are definitely not period specific.
Where did he find Silver Moon boots? I don't know, but pulling them off.
For sure. I agree. My number 6 also happens to be Black Hawk Down from 2001.
Wow.
Don't have much else to say other than I like this movie a little more than you guys do.
You do. You like it one more than us.
One more. Yep.
That's right. I like Napoleon one more than you do.
Okay, my number 6. It might be low for some people. It's Alien.
It's a little low. It's a little low.
It tracks. You don't like horror movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like horror movies. It's good. Don't get me wrong. It's got some memorable stuff. Is that the one with the stomach burster?
The chest burster?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a fun one. It's fine. Yeah, I like it.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's only like a seminal iconic horror masterpiece. It's fine.
Yeah. It's decent. So it's my number 6. Wait till you hear my number 5.
Yeah, I cannot wait. It's gonna be Prometheus. He secretly loves
never.
My number 5 is I think we were saying this a lot very soon. The previously mentioned The Last Duel. This is a movie that I did not catch until the very end of 2021, and it ended up being my favorite movie of that year. Like James said, it's got 3 or 4 great performances: Driver, Damon, Comer, and Ben Affleck. I really liked how it gave us a Rashomon style story, and then it gives us the titular last duel at the end, and it reminded me that Ridley Scott, he can still direct some pretty great action scenes. So overall, a quite impressive feat from him. I'm gonna say right now, like number 5 is my line between all the movies before this I liked a lot, and number 5 above is like, these are great Ridley Scott movies for me.
Nice. My number 5 is from 1982. Some people might say this is low, but it's Blade Runner, the original, which is a movie I like a lot. So I guess my line is between 5 and 6 as well, because Blade Runner is a classic for a reason. I think it holds up pretty well, despite the fact that it kind of, is, I don't know, the punkness of some of the android characters is a little dated, but because of the sci-fi rapper with all the neon drenching visuals and stuff like that, just kind of excuses anything that might date it, because you can kind of just imagine it as a completely different world. And I think it holds up. The best thing about Blade Runner from 1982 is that we got Blade Runner 2049 out of it as well.
That's the best thing about Blade Runner?
That's
the sequel?
That's the best thing about it.
Okay.
Wow, that's interesting, James. All right, my number 5 is Exodus: Gods and Kings.
Oh, interesting.
Now this is controversial.
Apparently, we watched this for the show.
Yeah,
and I really, really liked it. I thought it was.
I
quite
remember
good.
that.
Yeah. This is Christian Bale playing Moses, opposite Joel Edgerton. It also has Sigourney Weaver in it for you Alien fans. I thought this movie was very, very well done, and I especially liked the way that the 10 plagues of Egypt were depicted. It's kind of like it's a brief like montage almost in the film, and it shows how like one plague like leads to the next. It was really visually very cool, and I had a great time with this movie. I give it 4.5 stars.
Nice.
Let's all just take a moment and acknowledge that Zach's favorite Ridley Scott Sigourney Weaver collaboration is Exodus, Gods and Kings over Alien.
I'm looking, and that does appear to be accurate. No, I'd have to see who's in this one movie. She might also be in this other movie. But I think we can confidently say that I'm not a film snob.
Okay. Are you saying I am? I put Blade Runner at number 5, all right?
Wow, you really took that personally, James.
I already put my neck out there.
I'm just saying I'm not a film snob. I am perfectly happy putting Exodus: Gods and Kings above Alien.
Oh, I will confidently say that I probably have the film snobbiest ranking of the 3 of us of Ridley Scott.
Let's find out.
Yeah. Well, let's go to my number 4. This is a top 300 movie for me. I believe Last Duel is a top 500 or 600 movie, but top 300 movie, The Martian from 2015. Yeah, 2015. So this is the movie about Matt Damon being on a trip to Mars, who gets left behind and then needs to figure out how to get himself home because he was left for dead on Mars and, spoiler alert, is not dead. This is based on a book of the same name. And I think this is one of the better book to movie adaptations I've seen. I've read the book. The book is great. This movie gives me the vibe of the book. It gives like some of the major plot points. It definitely shows like Mark Watney being the same character. It gives you a lot of what's going on Earth at the same time, but doesn't feel like it has to adapt every single thing from the book. Like it does a great job of choosing what's important to tell this story that we can fit into a cohesive movie, and what can we leave on the cutting room floor because it's just redundant. For a sense of a movie, it's a great Matt Damon performance, and it's, I mean, beautifully shot. The scenes on Mars look great. If I had one complaint about this movie, it's at the very end when he's doing the rescue and he's all tangled up in the ropes, spinning through space. This movie came out a year after Gravity, or 2 years after Gravity, and it just gave me like a real Gravity vibe to it that it felt unnecessary for what was a movie about using science to solve all your problems, and logic came down to like, I'm going to make this brash decision. So that was my one complaint with the movie. But other than that, a near perfect movie for me.
I think science gets you far enough, and then you got to do the Hail Mary.
And that maybe that's the point. Is that right? So you're saying science can get you so far?
No. It's just like science will get you as far as you can go.
Right.
And then you got to go with just the Hail Mary luck.
Yeah, and that's how we get to flat Earth. Science takes you so far, and then the rest you have to figure out for yourself.
We get to flat Earth by people that take science as far as it can go, and no, and no one takes science more seriously than them.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert for The Martian if you haven't seen it. That wasn't in the book. The ending of The Martian.
No, I thought in the book he like passes out and gets rescued. Like he does have to eject, but I don't think there's this whole like I'm going to be Iron Man and fly through.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe
I'm conflating him now. I thought that he did do that in the book, but
I thought in the book like I thought he passes out because he's essentially in an uncovered rocket in space.
That could be true too.
But I mean, admittedly, it's more exciting to watch him do a gravity dance with Jessica Chastain and like cuts to black and he wakes up on the spaceship. So I understand why they made the choice they made.
Have you read Project Hail Mary?
No, I want to though. I need to get back into reading. Let's just
get back into reading, and
yeah.
Project Hail Mary is really good, and they're making that into a movie as well.
So I definitely want to see that before I see the movie. So.
Yes, and it's Ryan Gosling is going to be the lead.
Okay, steamy.
Probably won't be in this film.
Okay,
I doubt it.
Speaking of steamy, my number 4 from 2012, it's Prometheus. Way better than Blade Runner.
Okay, so this is a hot take. This is a hot take.
This is not a hot take. I've always had this take. I've
Exodus.
always had this take. Zach,
I'm just saying
haven't
it's
I
a
always had this
culturally
take?
hot take.
Yeah, culturally, it's a hot take.
Yeah,
because this movie is trash.
You're crazy. Lots of people love Prometheus. I'm not the only one. Just because you two don't, it feels like everybody doesn't. But
lots of people believe all sorts of things. It's what do most people think?
The people that don't like it also only don't like it because of one scene where some guy takes the helmet off and for some reason the rest of it's ruined.
No, that's not not the one scene.
All those people that don't like it
don't
like it for that one thing, James.
Yes. That's the only complaint I ever hear. I walk up to people, I say, what do you think about Prometheus? They say, I love it, or I hated when the guy took his helmet off.
Well,
those are the two answers I get.
That's an easy way. That's an easy thing to point to because there's multiple instances of characters making those dumb decisions. Like they open the door when like one of their crew members goes missing and then shows up all deformed on like their front doorstep. I'm like, let's open the door and find out what's going on. Like there's that.
It's their crew member friend. They're trying to save them.
No, don't argue with the specific point, except that he's giving you other reasons.
Right. It's like, isn't it the medical vessels only work on men for whatever reason? So
Well,
like,
no.
So she
Yeah,
has
you
to
need
do
to
an
rewatch
abortion with
Prometheus.
like
That's not
stomach
true.
surgery.
right. Yeah.
They're
but no,
programmed to specific people. That one happened to be programmed to a man. She hasn't been programmed into the machine.
where was her machine then?
I don't remember.
James, you're arguing.
I don't
the
think she had a
specific
machine
instances.
for one reason or
James,
another.
you're arguing the specific instances, but Kyle's larger point is that there's plenty of things wrong with it, and people that don't like it can recognize that. It's just the helmet thing is maybe the most glaring example of which there are many examples.
Okay.
Charlize
Even
Theron
that
tries
example.
to outrun a rolling spaceship. Like, just cut left.
Yeah,
Zig
cut left.
or zag.
She does cut
Like,
left. That's how she avoids it.
No, she gets crushed.
Oh, Charlize Theron. Okay, but
Yeah.
what's her name?
Now
The other chick.
Now I know why he likes it. He has no idea what happens in the movie.
I do know what happened in the movie. How dare you? I've seen it like 4 times. I love it.
You don't remember it, hence it's your number 4.
It's a visual masterpiece that also happens to be an impeccably designed movie. Maybe not scripted, but impeccably designed.
Designs.
With great performances throughout. Perfect tone for an Alien prequel movie. It's a shame that the second one was not as amazing as Prometheus was, but that's where it lies.
Zach, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Is Covenant better or worse than Prometheus?
He's never seen it.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, because I don't take James's opinion because he puts Prometheus number 4.
I imagine it's better.
Well, if you won't take my opinion, then you'll watch Covenant because Covenant is not as good as Prometheus. So maybe you'll love it.
I will. I'm intrigued to rewatch Prometheus. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, I would
saw it,
happily rewatch
like,
Prometheus.
Right, just to. I'm just
To what?
Curiosity.
You're gonna hate watch it.
No,
You got to
not to
go in
hate
with a
watch it.
totally different perspective. You got to go into it and think, I'm James. What do I like about this? Not, I'm going to find the 10 things that I can fight with James about over it.
James, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get a Prometheus tattoo,
I dare you.
and then I'm going to watch this movie.
I double dare you.
So that I like cognitively need to love it in order to justify the fact that I got a tattoo.
That would
What's
be
a
amazing.
Prometheus tattoo? Like just the word Prometheus?
Yeah.
I would imagine a Prometheus tattoo would have to be poorly done.
How
Probably
dare
misspelled.
you? How dare you?
Misspelled Prometheus.
How dare you? There is.
Relatively.
I'll
not
have you
making
know
any
there are
sense.
0 misspellings in Prometheus.
Are you confident about that?
No, but
I'm just saying-
I have faith in Ridley Scott that there's no misspellings.
If you get the tattoo and then end up hating the movie again, just tell people you like fire and it's fine.
I'm thankful for fire.
You're thankful for fire. Yeah.
All right. Well, my number 4 is the aforementioned The Last Duel. And I liked it
Nice.
for the things that you liked it for.
Bingo.
Is that the first
Why-
bingo?
No. The Black Hawk Down. That was our first bingo.
That's a bingo.
All right. Well,
now I
you,
got it covered.
you just
And
get
we'll
that.
have more.
You just
We're-
get that
we're gonna
finger
have-
ready because
We're going to
they're,
have 3 more bingos.
they're coming hot and furious now. All right. My number 3, and now we've jumped into top 100 movies for me because apparently I have 3 Ridley Scott top 100 movies. He might be up there with Hitchcock and Kubrick as overrepresented in my top 100 and
Okay.
Spielberg. Gladiator, number 3.
Your number 3 is Gladiator.
Number 3 is Gladiator.
Yeah, that's because
Can't wait to see where you put
Alien,
Prometheus.
and its number 1 is Blade Runner. Done.
Well, Zach's okay. Thanks, Zach. All right. Well, thanks for listening to episode 610 of the Cinereelists.
You don't have to confirm yet.
I told you I'm gonna have the snobby list of the reviews. So this is I think it's my 75th favorite movie, 74th favorite movie of all time. Yeah, and this is about Russell Crowe, who is a Roman general who gets conscripted into to become a gladiator and goes through that whole process. And it's
Not
That's
how I
a
describe
simplification of the story for sure.
conscripted to be a gladiator.
He's sold as a slave. Okay.
Yeah. Betrayed
I mean-
by the.
Right. But this is this is an epic, right?
Mhm.
This is an epic movie of this tale of Russell Crowe as a gladiator. It spans multiple places within the Roman Empire. I believe he's Italian himself, so we even get some like his villa. The action scenes are incredible. The gladiator pits, they're incredibly memorable. there is an actual plot to this movie. It's not just about a gladiator. Like there is things going on. And it's also a great Joaquin Phoenix performance as Commodus, right?
Mhm.
That's his name.
Yeah.
The Emperor at the time. Probably my favorite Joaquin performance of all time. And definitely the performance that put him on the map for me. So this is a great movie.
Besides Space Camp.
I don't remember him in Space Camp very well.
Oh, really? Okay.
So yeah, not on the map. No.
It's because he's not in the credits. Some guy named Leaf is.
Yeah.
For me, it's Parenthood. You got to watch Parenthood. Then you'll be like, oh, Joaquin Phoenix was good way before.
Oh, I'm sure he was. This is just like my first acknowledgement that he is a unique face as an actor. Yeah.
Fair enough. My number 3, The Martian from 2015. I love this movie. It's super fun and interesting and funny and makes me feel like I know science by watching it, even though I'm sure there's not much science to it. And to go into the ending without spoiling anything, didn't really bother me. Have you guys seen the extended cut of The Martian?
No. I'd love to.
know.
It's good. You guys should watch it.
I have it on 4K. I wonder if the extended cut is on the 4K.
Don't know.
Check it out. I would like to do that. That sounds great because my number 3 is The Martian.
That's a bingo.
I read the book, loved the book, was excited for the movie. Movie came out. It's one of those rare things where the movie had the vibe of the book.
Yes. Yeah.
They had the same tone. It was great. And I love Matt Damon. Matt Damon's great. He's perfect for Watney. And James, the science in the movie was mostly based off the science in the book, and the science in the book was incredibly accurate.
Yeah.
I would say the biggest thing in the movie that was unscientific is that I think the original disaster happened because of a windstorm or something, like a big sandstorm on Mars. And the atmosphere on Mars is so thin that you could not destroy anything with a windstorm.
You can have windstorms on Mars like that.
Yeah.
No.
The atmosphere is way too thin. Other than that.
What
it was
started
really
what
great.
was the disaster in the book?
Don't remember.
I don't remember either. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not important.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, Martian, really great. I also had no problem with the ending. I was fine with what happened. I liked it. And I love the cast. There's so many people that pop up in this movie. It's just it's like watching It's a Mad, 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 Mad World.
Mhm.
So many people. It's
Great
a mad,
analogy.
mad, 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 mad world of modern day science fiction.
I'm sure all of 2 listeners understand your reference.
Wow, you don't give them much credit.
Who has
You don't think they've seen It's a Mad, 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 Mad World?
Like it's just not. That's not movies
I've seen
people
it.
talk about anymore. Really,
James
you've
has
seen it,
seen it.
James?
Yeah, I have it on the shelves.
Did Zach make you? Was it? Did you lose?
No,
a bet?
I've seen it because it's a movie that people see.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess apparently I
You-
need to see this.
2
movie.
out
You
of
haven't
3
seen It's a
people.
Mad, 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 Mad World?
No, I have not seen It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. Though, I did have. I still have it. I completed it. I have the A24 crossword puzzle book,
Mhm.
and one of them is the answer. Like the main clue, the main movie of the clue of the puzzle is It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, and there's 4 Rebuses of mad throughout the whole puzzle. I thought that was super clever.
That's great.
Those are the fun crosswords to figure out. Yeah. Okay. Another fun movie to figure out is my number 2, which is I think my number 50 of all time, Alien, 1979. Incredible horror movie, incredible sci-fi movie. Scott does something great where you don't know who the main character is until like a third of the way through the movie. Where if you watch the movie at the beginning, Sigourney Weaver is kind of a minor character. Like you get the whole crew, but I would not say she's not a leader. She's not in no sense like the main focus of the camera. And then slowly throughout the movie, she becomes the final girl in a sense, right? And she becomes the main character, which is great. Ridley Scott, how he films the actual alien, the xenomorph, is pretty incredible. Because if you ever seen like footage of the thing walking around, it looks like a big tall guy in a rubber suit.
It looks very
And-
goofy.
It does look very goofy. And kind of at the very end of the movie, you see the xenomorph in its full form and it looks okay. But for the rest of the movie, he's just filming it like just the head or a tentacle or a mouth. And you really don't know what you're looking at. And that really adds to the horror of the whole thing. By far, my favorite one is when Dallas he's climbing through the tubes, the tunnels, and he turns around and the xenomorph is there. And it's just the actor going like putting his hand, like doing jazz hands to scare him. But it's such an effective jump scare, even though if you pause it, it's super cheesy. I don't know. It's one of these movies where it's a low budget horror movie and it could have looked super cheesy. But because you had Ridley Scott, who's filming this thing, it became a masterpiece.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Please.
I don't have a perfect articulation of the difference between 1 and 2 specific scene wise. I know I understand the differences,
Right.
yeah. But like specific scene, I have a scene in my head.
Okay.
And I want to know if it happens in 1 or 2. I believe it happens in 2.
Okay.
But my real question is, does it happen in 2 or does it happen in a parody of 2?
What's the scene?
The alien opens his mouth and like another alien head sticks out of the mouth and opens his mouth.
Not
that.
It's not another alien head. It's another.
It's a part of his mouth.
It's a part of his mouth that extends out. So I think maybe you're thinking that that's another alien head. But it also might be a parody where they literally had another alien head in some parody movie that I'm not.
Okay. So I think you're thinking of 3. Because the most iconic I can think of is where it opened. I believe in all 3 movies, it opens his mouth and a second mouth comes out.
Okay.
But
Sigourney Weaver is specifically like motionless and it happens right by her ear.
That's 3 because she's bald when it's happening, correct?
I would have probably bald.
So I think that's the most, for me, that was the most memorable moment of 3. And like that's the iconic shot of like she's up against a wall. Like her eyes are closed. She's kind of reaching back, but she's pinned to a wall. And the alien's mouth opens and that second mouth comes out. So to answer your question, it's not 1 or 2.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. And then is there a parody where the alien comes out of the alien's mouth and then dances to Hello, My Ragtime Doll?
That's Spaceballs.
From Spaceballs.
And that's
Spaceballs.
Yeah. And that's the chest burster.
Okay.
What's great about that is they get John Hurt, who's an alien who has the chest burster. They bring him in Spaceballs to do the exact same scene.
Oh, great. Okay.
And yeah, it as he's laying there, he says, "Not again," which is so stupid.
They pretty faithfully recreate it right up until that moment too. It's kind of
because
impressive.
it like comes out, it dashes across the room, and then it does the "Come on, my baby, come on, darling."
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Okay.
My second favorite Ridley Scott movie of all time is, of course, Alien.
That's a bingo.
Which I completely agree with Kyle's assessment of Alien. I don't necessarily disagree with Zach's, but he left a lot of props on the table.
What does that
for sure.
mean?
It's too low for you, Zach. Maybe the one thing that Kyle did not mention that I think is worth mentioning when discussing Alien is just the huevos rancheros of Ridley Scott to put a female at the middle of this movie at the time that he made the movie. Because women, traditionally the main characters of horror films, right? But not in this way, not like in full empowerment mode in a sci-fi movie. It was unheard of at the time. And really, even in years past, like they immediately passed the baton to like the Arnold Schwarzeneggers and the Sylvester Stallones of the world. It took a long time between the Alien movies and other sci-fi movies to catch up to the idea that women can be the main star of these and people will show up as long as it's a good movie. Really doesn't matter who's at the center of it. And I think he doesn't get enough credit for that. And I think Sigourney Weaver pulling it off, she doesn't get enough credit for that. I do think they do get credit for it, though, occasionally, just not enough. Like this movie was entered into the Library of Congress for being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. And yet still, Zach put it as his number 5. I can't explain it.
No, that's untrue. That's slander.
Was your
I put it as my number 6.
Okay, sorry. Number 6. Not even top 5. How dare you?
Top 10. Definitely solidly top 10.
Top 10
Good.
in a field of like 25.
Atmospheric. Great film.
What's your number 2?
My number 2, Blade Runner. It's got to be Blade Runner.
Mm-hmm.
Blade Runner is great. I think it's troubling and problematic with its sexual politics watching it in 2023. But
with the robots and stuff, or the androids, is that what you're talking about?
Well, according to one interpretation, no. There's a scene with Deckard and the lady, and he's very, very rapey in that scene.
Okay,
he forces a kiss on her.
Yeah. And so, but apart from that, the movie is like,
but she's an android, right?
Iconic.
So she has no rights.
Oh my gosh, this is what's it called all over again?
No,
the movie where the robot and
Ex Machina
all over again.
But see, I don't think
he's a robot too. So what?
Whoa,
what are we doing here?
Whoa, I don't think that Ridley Scott was trying to make a point of, oh, he sees her as a robot, has no rights, so he can do what he wants with her. I think Ridley Scott was just using a tired convention of a man wants a kiss from a woman, so he just takes it. And then the woman succumbs because she didn't realize that what she was missing out on until he laid it on her.
So that's the troublesome part. That the fact that he gets away with it because it was such a good smackaroo. He just
it's a tiresome trope of
sure, you
don't want a kiss, I'll give it to you anyway, and you'll fall in love with me after I kiss you.
But the set pieces,
just the set pieces,
the score,
the matte paintings.
Yeah, the matte paintings. Oh, chef's kiss than the matte paintings. Yeah, I mean the movie's really good. So apart from that,
nice.
That's why it's my number 2. Better than Blade Runner 2049.
Well, my number 1, and I believe this is also James's number 1, Blade Runner.
No, he already had Blade Runner.
I already named Blade Runner.
Oh, you already named Blade Runner. Oh my goodness. I was looking for a picture. I wasn't paying attention. My apologies.
His number 1 is Exodus: Gods and Kings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Prometheus. Yeah. No. Anyway, so yeah, this is Ridley Scott's masterpiece, right? It's everything he is great at in this movie. Story wise, this is another adaptation, right, of a Philip K. Dick book. This movie has gone through multiple iterations and cuts, and I'm going to say that the final cuts is, by the way, the one I'm putting as my number 1. I have seen all 3 of them, and they all have varying ups and downs, but for sure, Final Cut is the strongest of the 3. It is a great performance from Harrison Ford as Deckard. And then, yeah, just the absolute world building in this movie. How many other movies have we pointed to that have been like, oh yeah, it's Blade Runner-esque? Like that is a term within film terminology.
Mm-hmm.
The use of practical effects to give this lived-in world. I jokingly said matte paintings before, but this movie has beautiful matte paintings, and I love matte paintings. And there's just some incredible ones in this. I remember watching this with Megan a couple years ago, and I think I was annoying her because I kept pausing. I was like, Megan, check out this matte painting. And she was like, I get it, Kyle, I get it. And I think that kind of ruined the movie for her somewhat because I was just geeking out of it the entire time.
Sure,
but it's wonderful. It's a great movie. I think it's like my number 30 or 25 or something like that. So it's high up there.
Nice. My favorite Ridley Scott movie of all time is, of course, Gladiator from the year 2000.
Mm-hmm.
Pre 9/11 movie, which is how I mark time. Great film, Gladiator. I actually just watched it on 4K today, and it was the extended director's cut. And to be honest, I don't know what they added because I watched it and I was like, this all feels like it should be here. And
Probably a lot more of him floating over fields of rye and grain.
probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie isn't based on a true story, right? It's like taking bits and pieces of stories and kind of mashing it into one big thing.
I mean, there was a Commodus who fought as a gladiator for fun.
Right, but the details of what is in Gladiator,
For sure,
I believe
yeah,
they made up.
Yeah.
I don't think Ridley Scott's strong suit is like historical accuracy.
I don't know. Napoleon was very accurate, extremely accurate.
Was it, James?
Shh, Kyle. No spoilers. Gladiator. In recently watching on 4K for the first time after having not seen it for probably 10 years easy, I was a little afraid that like some of the limited CG would show the seams basically, and no, it looked great. Tigers looked great. The scale of him in the arena, which is a good deal CG, it all looked beautiful. Also, the movie itself plays beautifully. It's a good mix of like action scene, political scene, love scene, action scene. You know what I mean? It's like action scenes mixed with boring stuff. And it makes the boring stuff interesting because there's just enough action to keep things going. And I really love Gladiator, and I'm happy to put it at my number 1 slot on my favorite films of Ridley Scott list.
James, it's really interesting hearing your review of Gladiator after talking Napoleon with you.
Why?
I'll
say this without spoiling it for Zach. I like that Gladiator tells a specific continuous story from one end to the other with very little extraneous stuff. That's all I'll say about it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to get into it without ruining anything for Zach, but it's interesting to hear you talk Gladiator after you talk Napoleon.
Why do you think they're more similar than I'm saying?
No, I think you were looking for Napoleon to be another gladiator.
Oh, I would have loved that. But I'm not mad at it.
That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say.
I'm not mad at it for not being that, but who wouldn't want Napoleon to be another gladiator, right? That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
They needed more tigers in Napoleon, that's for sure.
Yeah, I forgot that that's one thing they left out, which I was disappointed by. Was all the tiger attacks used. Yep.
Famously.
Somehow they got the Sepultura song in there, though.
Is that Sepultura? It's Sepultura?
I don't know. Is it?
Sepulcher.
I always said Sepultura.
What did I say? Sepultura?
You said Sepultura.
Okay, I've never heard of this band. I have no idea what you're talking about. But if it's based on a biblical word, it's sepulcher.
No, it's SEPULUTUAR, something like that.
No, there's an RA at the end.
It's not sepulcher. That word I know. Sepultura. This is Sepultura.
Okay. All right. Anyways,
Sepultura.
My number 1 is Gladiator.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. That's a bingo.
This movie's so awesome. I've seen this movie so many times. I've probably seen it 15 times. It's great.
When's the last time you saw it? Like, are you on a break from Gladiator?
I'm on a break. I want to rewatch it. I want to go to your house and borrow your 4K and watch it.
All right.
It looks awesome on 4K. I watched it on 4K in the last year, I want to say. It looked great.
Yeah. Love this movie. It's definitely the role I think of when I think of Joaquin Phoenix, which made me not like him for a long time because he's absolutely despicable in this movie.
Sure.
It's really great. It's super good.
It's also the role I think of when I think of Russell Crowe. Like, it's the role of his lifetime, right? Basically, like nothing got any better than this.
Yeah, he peaked. Like this also broke him out and peaked him at the same time, correct?
I think so. Possibly. Yeah.
Well, he was in that math one.
A Beautiful Mind.
Yeah.
But that came out a year later.
Yeah, and certainly he got, accolades for that, but it's no Gladiator.
Right.
And The Insider.
Also a good movie, not The Gladiator.
Yeah, no, I mean, like he's had other good roles. I'm not saying that he's not a one-hit wonder acting wise.
You're saying he peaked.
He's never reached Gladiator Maximus proportions. Yes.
Yeah. You disagree, Zach? You think A Beautiful Mind or whatever else you mentioned is better than Gladiator.
The Insider.
No, I don't.
The Insider.
I don't agree with
Exactly.
I mean,
you agree with
what
us.
I liked him in Nice Guys. I thought like he
Nice
worked well in
Guys.
Nice Guys.
You're
For
right.
sure.
Yeah.
I just think when I think of a peak, to say that he peaked and then never regained, in one sense, I agree with him in the sense of his best movie is Gladiator, his best performance, his most iconic performance. So that, I guess, is a peak. But when I think of a peak, I think of a precipitous decline. And if he still has like super well-regarded films extending on through the decades, then I think of it less as a peak as like his first big moment, at which he had other moments.
Yeah, but I
None
still
being
think it's
bigger
also
than the
his
first.
highest. You're right. I still it's his first big moment and his biggest moment of the.
It's the
of all of
peak.
them.
That's
Yeah.
what a peak is. The highest
I mean,
moment.
No, I get it. I get it. Are we talking about a mountain?
The
or
rest of his
mountain
career
range, or
can
a
do this
plateau?
as long as the highest are never higher than the first one. That's the peak.
No, I agree. It just it has a connotation of a drop off.
We're not slagging him. We're just saying that was the peak.
It's peak Russell Crowe.
I know
Russell Crowe.
they're gonna make a Gladiator 2. Ridley Scott's back at it. Do you think Russell Crowe will appear in Gladiator 2?
Well, if you look at his Letterboxd filmography, the answer is no.
I mean,
But-
they could like make him one of the politicians or something. I mean, he's in no shape to be like in the arena anymore, but certainly
Wow,
there's
body shame much.
I'm not shaming him. I'm just saying there's certain requirements for the role, and he probably doesn't fit those anymore. No shame in that game.
You think that he fights a rather large gladiator in the movie?
Okay, so they're just going to put him out on the stage, and he's going to get
Hold
beat?
on. Kyle, by large you mean like an incredibly
like muscular or
No.
gladiator?
bulbous.
No, I mean, I'm sure the guy's muscular, but he also has a nice layer of padding on top of all of it.
Subcutaneous.
It's the guy with the bull hat with the bull helmet that's wearing it.
Well, Russell Crowe is on record of being jealous of Gladiator 2, and he's not in it.
Oh, he's not in it. Oh,
He's not in it.
unfortunate.
He should be in it. They should sneak him in, Alfred Hitchcock style. Just have him walk by the screen and
He should sneak
wink
himself
at the
in.
audience. Yeah.
Potentially
Dr. Moreau
Denzel's
style.
in it.
Denzel's in it.
Potentially.
Isle of Dr. Moreau style. That got me. That was a good one. All right. That was our top 10 Ridley Scott movies. Do you agree? Do you disagree? The best way to let us know is by sending us an email. heyguys@cinereelists.com. You could also find us on YouTube. Search Cinereelists on YouTube. Watch while you listen. Support us on Patreon. Get extra after show audio. Leave us an Apple Podcast. We'd appreciate that. That's free, and it will only take a moment and will help others find the podcast. You could also follow us on social media on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok at Cinereelists, or you could follow me on my personal Twitter or Letterboxd account at YoJRB.
And you can follow me on Twitter or Letterboxd at Shaban.
You can find me on Letterboxd at Peter SKB.
Next week, we will be talking the new Emerald Fennell film, Saltburn. Emerald Fennell.
Fennel.
Fennel.
I don't know if James knows how to pronounce words.
Fennell.
Have you
Fennell.
listened to the show?
No, but like fennel is a vegetable, a sprig of some sort.
Is it?
Chweidel Elijah 4.
I chweidled myself, all right?
You chweidled yourself.
Just for you.
Okay,
Just for you, Kyle.
So, American Gangster, Chweidel Ejiofor is in that movie,
Uh-huh.
and I don't even know how to say his name anymore. I've just heard Chweidel so many times. I see his name, I have to remind myself, which one is it actually?
Sure.
You got Chweidled. Exactly, yeah. I've Chweidled myself.
Oh, so great.
All right. So yeah, looking forward to Saltburn starring Barry Keoghan, Rosamund Pike, and Carey Mulligan. It's going to be a good one. Can't wait to talk to you guys about that movie. We still need to come up with a list. Not sure what we're going to talk about as far as the list goes, but we'll figure it out. If you have a suggestion, email us. Either way, we'll see you there. Until then, keep it cinereal.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.